You know, one of the most liberating things you'll ever realize in this life is this: people's behavior has far more to do with them than it ever has to do with you. The way someone talks to you, reacts to you, ignores you, even disrespects you, 9 times out of 10, that's a mirror of their internal world. Not a commentary on your value, your dignity, or your worth. But here's the catch. Most of us weren't raised or trained to see it that way. We've been conditioned by family patterns, culture, social norms to take everything personally. Someone rolls their eyes at us, we feel disrespected. Someone cuts us off mid-sentence, we feel dismissed. Someone criticizes us harshly, and we spiral, wondering, what did I do? Or worse, what's wrong with me? We immediately attach their behavior to our identity. And the moment we do that, we hand over our peace on a silver platter. You cannot live free if you are emotionally enslaved by other people's immaturity, pain, or projection. And that's not a poetic idea. That's a psychological truth. Let's break it down. When someone lashes out, they're not showing you who you are. They're revealing who they are in that moment. A person who lives with unresolved anger will find a reason to be angry at you, even if you say everything right. A person who carries shame will twist your confidence into arrogance just to make themselves feel safer. That's not about you. That's about their unresolved business. And we've all done it too. Be honest, we've all had moments where our reaction wasn't fair to the other person. It was colored by exhaustion, insecurity, disappointment. You weren't mad at the person. You were mad at life, and they were just standing in the blast zone. When you start to understand this dynamic, you stop getting so emotionally entangled with people's outbursts, opinions, or passive-aggressive nonsense. You begin to create space, a kind of invisible buffer between their storm and your center. You realize, oh, you're having a moment, but I don't have to have it with you. That's power. And it's not ego, it's clarity. This isn't about letting people walk all over you or ignoring toxicity. It's about protecting your peace from unnecessary turbulence. Because if you respond to every provocation, you become reactive. And reactive people are easily manipulated, easily provoked, easily exhausted. But when you stay grounded, when you choose observation over reaction, you reclaim authority over your emotional landscape. Now, I want you to think about someone who's been bothering you, someone whose words or actions have been living rent-free in your mind. Ask yourself, what are they actually going through? What patterns are they replaying? What story are they stuck in that has nothing to do with me? Because I promise you, most people are operating from unhealed stories. And if you don't recognize that, you'll keep catching strays that were never meant for you in the first place. So much of our anger comes from misidentifying the target. We think we're mad at the person, but really we're hurt that we ever let them close enough to affect us. We're not just reacting to their words. We're reacting to how vulnerable it made us feel. And unless we do the deeper work to untangle those emotional threads, we'll stay in that loop of getting triggered, reacting, regretting, and repeating. That's why this work is spiritual as much as it is psychological. It takes inner discipline. It takes a strong sense of self to say, I don't need to absorb that. I can witness it. I can respond or not respond at all and still be in my power. Because peace isn't passive. Peace is a practiced, intentional state of being. And the more you protect it, the more sacred it becomes. So here's what I want you to carry with you. Their behavior is not your burden. Let them keep their chaos. Let them sit with their own discomfort. You don't need to pick it up and call it yours. You are not responsible for someone else's emotional storms. You are responsible for staying dry in the rain. That's the shift. From personalizing everything to perceiving clearly, from being reactive to being rooted. And when you live like that, not only do you become unbothered, you become unshakable. Because at the end of the day, when you stop taking things personally, you stop giving people permission to control how you feel. And that right there is the beginning of real peace. Let me be clear from the start, staying calm does not mean suppressing how you feel. It doesn't mean pretending you're not irritated, not offended, not hurt. That's not strength. That's denial dressed up in discipline. And over time, denial will leak. It will come out sideways. in your tone, in your body, in your relationships. What we're after here is not suppression, but separation. A healthy distance between what you're feeling and how you choose to respond. That's emotional maturity. That's emotional leadership. See, people will tell you to just stay calm, as if it's a button you press. But calm isn't a reaction, it's a practice. It's a muscle you build in private before you ever need to flex it in public. And it begins by understanding that you are not your emotions. You have emotions. You experience emotions, but you are not defined by them unless you allow yourself to be. Now, emotions are messengers. Anger, frustration, disappointment, they're not enemies. They're data, but when you react impulsively, you miss the message. You give in to the noise. That gap between what you feel and what you do with that feeling, that's where your power lies. Viktor Frankl said it best. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space is where the game changes. That space is what we need to stretch. So let's say someone says something that hits a nerve. Your heart rate spikes. Your chest tightens. Maybe your jaw clenches. That's your body lighting up with emotion. Perfectly human. But now you have a choice. You can react from that raw emotion, or you can breathe, acknowledge what you're feeling, and choose your next move. And I'm not saying that choice is easy. I'm saying it's worth it. Training emotional distance doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about your peace not to give it away every time someone pokes at your ego. It means you can hear something offensive and still respond with clarity, not chaos. It means you can witness your own triggers without becoming a slave to them. And let's talk about those triggers for a second. They're not just about what's happening now. They're usually echoes of what happened then. Childhood wounds, old betrayals, times you weren't seen, weren't heard, weren't valued. When someone touches that scar tissue, your nervous system wants to protect you. That's why the reaction feels so strong. But reacting blindly only reinforces the pattern. Pausing, that rewrites it. That's why tools like breathwork, mindfulness, or even a simple count to 5 aren't trivial. They're sacred. They are rituals of self-possession. They anchor you back into your body, your power, your presence. Because once you learn how to be with a feeling without being overrun by it, you start making decisions from wisdom, not from wounding. I want to challenge the idea that we must prove. We're not to be messed with through emotional aggression. That's a lie our pride sells us. True strength is measured in restraint, not reaction. There's nothing more intimidating than someone who can stay calm while everything around them is trying to provoke a storm. That kind of peace makes people uncomfortable because they can't control it. And that's exactly why it's powerful. But listen, this takes work. It takes practice. It takes patience with yourself. You will mess up. You will catch yourself mid-reaction and wish you had paused. That's part of it. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness. You can't shift what you're not aware of. But the moment you become aware, you become responsible. And the moment you take responsibility, you become free. So the next time you feel the heat rising, the words forming, the tension building, I want you to remember you don't have to go with it. You can witness it. You can honor it. But you don't have to follow it. That's what training emotional distance looks like. You are not weak for feeling things deeply. You are powerful when you can feel them fully without being controlled by them. That's real growth. That's real mastery. And here's the truth you need to hold on to. Just because a fire starts inside you doesn't mean you have to feed it. Let the fire burn out instead of burning bridges. That's how you stay powerful, poised, and free. Let's be honest. Some of us are exhausted, not because life is too hard, because we keep giving our energy to things that don't deserve it. Every little comment, every sideways glance, every post, every person, every situation that pokes at our pride or presses on an old wound. And before we even realize it, our peace is gone, our focus is scattered, and our spirit feels heavy. Not because we're weak, but because we haven't learned to ask one simple but powerful question. Does this deserve my energy? That question will save your life. It's not about being passive or indifferent. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about discernment. It's about recognizing that your attention, your reaction, your mental space, those are investments. And if you're constantly investing in things that bring no return, things that drain instead of build, you'll end up emotionally bankrupt, wondering why you feel so overwhelmed by life. This is where people confuse boundaries with bitterness. Let's clear that up. Deciding not to react isn't bitterness, it's wisdom. Choosing not to argue with someone who only wants to misunderstand you, that's not weakness. That's strategy. You don't fight every battle. You fight strategic battles. You choose when to speak, when to walk away, and when to stay silent, not out of fear, but out of clarity. See, some people thrive on reaction. Stirring chaos is how they feel in control. And the moment you engage, they've already won. Not because they're right, but because you gave them access. And when you give people unearned access to your emotions, your time, your headspace, you're giving away pieces of yourself for free. That's not generosity. That's mismanagement. Now, let's go deeper. Why is it so hard to let certain things go? Why do we keep responding, defending, proving, explaining? A lot of the time, it's ego. The part of us that still wants to be liked, understood, seen as right. And listen, ego isn't evil, it's just insecure. It's the part of us that's still healing, still afraid that silence means defeat, that walking away means weakness. But when you've done the inner work, you realize I don't need to win this moment to win in life. You learn that your peace is worth more than being right. You learn that being misunderstood is survivable. You learn that silence, when intentional, is a form of power. And power, real power, is quiet. It doesn't yell, it doesn't scramble. It doesn't defend itself to people committed to misunderstanding it. Real power knows where to place its energy. It knows that not everything deserves a response. Not every storm requires your presence. Not every mess is yours to clean up. This kind of discernment creates emotional margin. And emotional margin is what keeps you from breaking down when life gets loud. Because life will get loud. People will test your limits. Circumstances will come for your peace. But when you've already decided what's worth your energy and what isn't, you don't get caught off guard. You stay rooted. One of the most empowering decisions you'll ever make is to stop explaining yourself to people who don't want to understand. You don't owe everyone a piece of your process. You don't have to validate your boundaries. You don't need to argue your way into being respected. Either they see you or they don't. Either way, you're still whole. This level of detachment isn't cold, it's clear. It's not about building walls. It's about building filters. You filter what gets to touch your peace. You filter what gets to sit at your table. Because not everyone who wants your attention deserves your presence. So ask yourself, next time someone tests your patience, next time life throws a distraction your way, is this worth my energy? Is this fight going to feed my growth or just my ego? And if the answer is no, let it go. It doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're rising above. It means you're choosing the long game over the petty moment. And that's what emotional mastery looks like in real time. Let me leave you with this: stop throwing pearls at pigs and wondering why they don't value them. Your peace is precious. Protect it like it costs something, because it does. Let's talk about something most people don't realize is the root of their reactivity, a fragile sense of identity. When you don't know who you are, deeply, securely, everything feels like an attack. Every rejection feels like proof. Every criticism feels personal. Every disagreement feels like a threat. And so you lash out, shut down, over-explain, or spiral. Not because the situation is so powerful, but because your foundation is shaky. If you really want to stop being bothered by people, you've got to build an identity that isn't easily shaken, not a performative one, not one based on titles, popularity, or being seen a certain way. I'm talking about an identity rooted in truth, in values, in something that doesn't collapse the moment someone else disapproves. See, when you haven't done the inner work to define yourself, other people will do it for you. And when they do, you'll spend your whole life reacting to the labels they put on you. One minute you're confident, the next you're questioning everything because somebody made a passive-aggressive comment in a meeting or didn't invite you to a gathering. That's not peace. That's imprisonment. That's living on a leash that someone else is holding. And here's what's dangerous about that. If you only feel valuable when you're validated, you'll always be vulnerable to manipulation. People will learn what makes you feel insecure, and they'll use it, sometimes unintentionally, sometimes with full intent. But either way, if your worth is negotiable, so is your peace. This is why the internal work is non-negotiable. You've got to know who you are before the world tells you otherwise. You've got to decide what you believe about yourself and anchor into that. Your life depends on it. Because emotionally, it does. When you know who you are, somebody calling you too much or not enough won't rattle you. You'll know that their opinion is a reflection of their limitations, not your reality. It's like building a house on rock instead of sand. Storms will come either way, but one foundation will hold. The other will crumble. And the storms in life are people, circumstances, pressure, failure, success. All of it can shake you if you're not grounded. And let me say this, your identity is not built by accident. It's built by intention. You don't stumble into confidence. You don't magically wake up one day unaffected by people. You develop that, you earn that through consistency, self-awareness, and sometimes painful honesty with yourself. Who are you when no one's clapping? Who are you when no one's watching? Who are you when you're criticized, ignored, or overlooked? The answers to those questions reveal your emotional infrastructure. And if it's weak, that's not shame. It's a signal. It's time to do the work. You build a strong identity by living in alignment with your values, not your emotions, because emotions are fleeting. They change with the weather. But values, integrity, compassion, discipline, grace, those are stable. And the more your decisions align with what you believe, the less space there is for what others think to control you. Now, I know some people hear all this and say, that sounds good, but what about when the people closest to me are the ones shaking me? And that's real. When the shaking comes from people you love, it cuts deeper. But that's why this identity work has to be yours. Not theirs, not dependent on their approval or their consistency, because people can't give you what they haven't given themselves. If they don't know who they are, how can they affirm who you are? So you've got to make a decision. Will I build myself around the noise, or will I build myself around the truth? Because when your identity is secure, other people lose their power to disturb your spirit. You may feel the sting of a moment, but you won't carry it into your future. You won't let it redefine you. You'll say, I felt that, but it's not who I am. And you'll move forward, clear, calm, unbothered. This is what unshakable peace looks like. It's not that nothing affects you. It's that nothing defines you except truth. And when you live from that place, you no longer need to protect your peace with anger. You protect it with alignment. So here's the reflection I'll leave you with. If you're tired of being triggered by people, stop asking them to treat you better and start treating your identity like it matters. Because when you know who you are, nobody can make you forget it.